What's up, everybody? We are back here for another episode of the Level Up Your Life podcast. And as always, I am your host, Billy Anderson. And today I'm excited to talk to you guys about another topic that is continuously coming up. We deal with a lot of big brands, but often in our coaching programs or just through my DMs, I get reached out to a lot by early entrepreneurs, people that are maybe transitioning from their jobs to becoming entrepreneurs or wanting to become entrepreneurs. And the conversation always comes up is like, how do I get more from my business? How do I get more clients? How do I get more leads? How do I get more results? How do I make more money? How do I get more views on social media? How do I get more followers? And everything when it's how do I get more? We expect more to come out of life, but often we're not willing to put more into life, right? We want to make a bigger withdrawal than we are willing to make a deposit. And when we have that type of philosophy about how we're going about things, that's often the thing that's going to hold us back. Expecting higher level of results than the effort that we're putting in. And when we have that type of thinking, then ultimately we're going to continuously be let down by the outcome that we're getting from our output, right? So when your output is lower than the expected return that you're getting on that output, then you're going to continuously be let down. And this is where so many people like to think of themselves as high achievers. And I think it's often a misconception that because you have big goals that you are a high achiever. And I think a lot of people are like, well, I've got big goals, so I've got big plans. But the problem is often your plan is not as big as the big goals that you have. And so the way that you overcome this is by doing more. And I know the concept of this podcast, by doing more, creates more. It is as simple as that. One of the biggest misconceptions in the world is that it is not that simple, right? But the reality is it is that simple. The more of the correct activities that you do, the more likely it is that you're going to produce the results that you want. Now, the challenge between where you're at and where you want to go, you can't just go out and do more. Because if you're doing more of the wrong thing, then ultimately you're not going to get the result. And that is often what happens. But there's two misconceptions in the do more concept, which is, am I going to do more of the wrong activities? Or is it that I'm not doing the activity for a long enough period of time? Those are two of the biggest mistakes into creating more of a result that you want, right? And so this is why if you are not tracking something and you're not evaluating the performance that you're doing on those activities, then you're going to end up doing more of the wrong thing. And I'll admit, growing up, my dad was a hard worker. And I've said it probably here on the podcast. The two main things I got from my parents was my dad taught me how to work and my mom taught me to believe in myself, which is a very scary combination if used incorrectly, because I believed in myself that I was going to achieve these results. And I figured if I just worked hard and I outworked everybody else by the amount of hours I put in, that I was going to create a higher level result. But the problem was I was doing a lot of activities that were not creating the results I wanted. And so, this vulnerability aspect or this authentic aspect of how we approach this and how we approach our thinking when it comes to the activities is so critical, because if we're just knuckleheads out there and we're unwilling to evaluate and track our activity, then ultimately we're not going to be able to truly see what activities lead to what results. But that comes through that vulnerability, that transparency with ourselves, right? Like being vulnerable with other people is great, but we have to be vulnerable with ourselves and honest with ourselves. Like truly cut all the bullshit out. We got to cut all the excuses, all the fluff that we tell ourselves, like we're doing it, we're doing the do. But are you willing to sit down and honestly evaluate the activity that you're doing? Because if you can evaluate what you're doing, you're going to quickly be able to adjust and adjust and adjust to the point that you actually identify the exact activities that drive the exact results. Then from there, you scale those activities and you're going to produce more of those results. But the problem is that so many of us are just going about doing the most, but we're doing the most of the wrong activities. And that's what allows people to get to a higher level. And when we can understand that doing more activity will lead to more results, because when we do more and we're honest with ourselves, that will give us more feedback loop. And the more feedback that we have coming through that loop, then ultimately the more we're going to learn, and then the more we're going to be able to fine tune and adjust. But so many people, when it comes to like content creation, people will launch 4 or 5 podcasts. I think I saw statistics last week that the average podcast has 10 episodes, period. The average podcast. But then I go and hear a podcast from Alex Hormozi, and he talks about that it took him 400 episodes before he broke in the top, I think it was top 100 podcasts in business. And so for me, I look at that and I go, okay, I'm at episode 66. I have at least, another 340 episodes to go before I can even consider breaking in, right? So now for me, it's like, okay, doing 1 a week, that's going to take me 340 weeks to do. Well, what if I expedited that and I jumped that down to 2 or 3 podcasts a week? Well, how quickly could I hit that 400 mark? But more importantly, it's not just about the metric of hitting 400, but it's what I'm going to learn in the process of going from 66 episodes to 400 episodes if I'm willing to be honest with myself. So when we can be honest about what we're doing plus high volume activity, then we're going to be able to get more reps in. And ultimately, because we're able to get more reps in, we're able to identify what activities lead to what results. And then from there, the more clarity we gain around those activities that drive those results, the more we can scale the highest impact or highest income producing activities. HIPAA, I love using the acronym, because if we're honest about those HIPAA activities, then ultimately we're going to be able to drive those results that we want. But the problem is so many of us are willing to give it a week, willing to try a couple things, but then it's like going to the gym and working out 2 or 3 times or working out for a whole week and going, where's my 6-pack? Why am I not Arnold Schwarzenegger yet? And it's because it takes time and it takes repetition. And more importantly, that those first 5 days, you probably had crap form, you had a shitty diet, you worked out poorly, you weren't breathing, you didn't take the proper supplements. There's so many things that in the process of becoming Arnold Schwarzenegger, that if you're honest and you're willing to be vulnerable to yourself first and foremost, that you're gonna be able to learn about what's not working. You're gonna go out and seek the knowledge. You're gonna go learn from people so that you can then improve that process and be able to execute at a very high level, then ultimately coming out with the result that you actually want. So when you want to do more, it is about volume, and it is about volume and testing, because when you're willing to test at a volume scale, you're going to be able to chunk through things quicker and quicker and quicker. Imagine if you were trying to fine tune your sales pitch and you did 1 sales pitch a month. How long would it take you to fine tune that process? It could take you a year. Well, how much is that going to cost you taking a year to fine tune your sales process? What if you could do 12 calls over the next 12 days, 12 calls over the next day, over the next 2 days, right? How much quicker through that feedback loop could you improve your process and ultimately drive a higher level of execution, because you were able to use that feedback to improve your process, identify what activities drive what results, scale those activities so that you can then scale your results. But it is about a volume game, and the highest level achievers, I don't care whether it's social media content, whether it's business, whether it's sales, anything is about how many doors can I knock on today so that I can then create the opportunities to go through more doors, right? And so when we can identify what activities drive what results, we got to scale the shit out of those, pump, and then that's how we're going to get the results. But it comes through doing more and allowing yourself to have that feedback loop, learn from that feedback loop so that you can identify the activities, scale those activities so you can scale results. So I wanted to get in here real quickly and talk about this, because this is something that so often people are hitting me up in my DMs asking me, how do I get more X? Look, if you are unwilling to do the activity, then you got to come with the money. Because if you're unwilling to, specifically on the business side, right? If you want more leads and you're unwilling to send the DMs, you're unwilling to post the content, you're unwilling to go shake those hands, to create that network of leads, then ultimately you got to go invest the money. And there's so many people looking to do more with less. But the problem is you can't do more with less if you're not willing to learn from that, which means if you're going to invest the money, then you have to also be willing to understand that there is a downside risk of investing your money and losing. People ask me how I became as versed as I did in the stock market or cryptocurrency. It's because I lost a fuck ton of money. I lost a lot of money. And so, if I wasn't willing to lose money in the stock market or in cryptocurrency, and I expected to hit home runs every single time, and I was not willing to strike out, then I would be naive to think that I would be able to have built a portfolio that I have built that generates me cash flow through dividends, as well as has created a very lucrative portfolio for me. But it was because of the losses that has led to the wins. And so if you're unwilling to lose more, and that means from a financial side or a time side or effort side, then you are unwilling to get the results that you want. You have to think about that. If you are unwilling to lose time, energy, and money to achieve what you want, and you only expect to win, then you will never win because you are unwilling to lose. The first step to winning is losing. Do you think Michael Jordan went to go play every game with the expectation that he wasn't going to lose? Like that he was unwilling to lose. Now he had a tenacious effort and a tenacious mindset about going about winning, right? I expect to win at everything I do, but I have to understand that losses lead to wins. That there is no team that has gone undefeated that hasn't, or there's no championship team that has not gone, that has not lost, right? Now we can argue college football, things like that, but I'm talking about in majority of sports, right? Every team has to have experienced a loss so they know what it feels like, so they can know how to get better. But there are so many entrepreneurs, especially those early entrepreneurs that are unwilling to lose. Losing is not even a possibility. And when then they lose, they become deflated. But the thing about champions is that when they lose, they learn. And because they learn through their losses, that they then learn how to do more through those losses, and then that's how they get the results they want. So be willing to lose, but most importantly, be willing to learn from your losses and test and test and test so that you can identify those activities that drive those results that you want, and then do a ton of those activities so that you can produce higher level results. The difference between you and I, or you and the person that you want to become, is that they're willing to do more reps than you, and they're willing to learn through that pattern recognition, through that feedback loop. They're willing to learn so they can create the results that they want. So with that, guys, this is going to conclude this episode. But if you got anything from this, please screenshot this, share this out on Instagram, send this to a friend. But also, if you could rate and review this podcast, we want to break into that top 100, and I would like to do it before the 400th episode. But we're going to continue to listen to my DMs, listen to the conversations that I'm having with all of you guys out there that are shooting me DMs and messaging me, because we want to deliver you guys value. So if you want to see something on this podcast, ask me questions. Share with me your feedback, because I'd love to be able to give you more advice to help you grow your business and level up your business and your life. So with that, this is the Level Up Your Life podcast, and we'll see you back here for the next episode.